You value traditions.
Today.
You value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
A pleasant good morning, viewers. My name is Javon Wilson, coming to you live out of 284 Media. Now, without a doubt, we are living in a time where holistic wellness and, holistic wellness in general is so paramount, and that is why I believe today's interview is so very important. Now, newly launched Holistic and Therapeutic Haven is a local business that focuses on holistic wellness, especially as we know diseases and particularly the COVID-19 virus continues to threaten our immunity. Now, this is a team unlike no other, and today we sit down with the founder, Mrs. Philippa Barry, of course, to speak to the services and how we can collectively become a healthier population here in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. We have the exclusive right after this commercial break, so stick with us.
You value traditions.
Today.
You value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 Media. Now, today my guest is no other than Mrs. Philippa Barry. She is a professional in nutrition and dietetics for over 30 years, and of course, the founder of newly launched Holistic and Therapeutic Haven here in the territory. Welcome, Ms. Barry.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so just tell us a little bit about your work as it relates to your background. I know you are a specialist. Clearly, we mentioned quite a number of years in the profession, over 30 years. I'm sure you have amassed quite a good amount of information and expertise that you can now gift back to the public. What was your background like in this particular interest?
Well, I started in nutrition from as far back as in the 1990s. And
Okay.
as a matter of fact, coming back from doing my undergraduate studies in nutrition, I actually held a position at the then government's People's Hospital
Okay.
as the nutrition manager. And since I was the only one there, I was more or less dealing with all of the key aspects in terms of nutrition care for the patients in hospital as well as in the community.
All right, so you have quite an extensive amount of knowledge and expertise coming from that background, but clearly you have stepped out on a different breath, a private venture this time. Tell us about Holistic and Therapeutic Haven, but also what inspired you to get into this particular program?
Well, I actually retired after 27 plus years working in the field, and because you see with nutrition, nutrition is more or less like in terms of medical, it's fluid, information is fluid and it's changing ever so often. And as a registered dietitian, nutritionist, I actually have to do continuous education, so I always have to keep on the cutting edge to maintain my registration status. And with currently right now, especially when I actually did my master's degree back in 2000, I knew that this is what is really going to transpire, because ever so often we were being told about what's to come in the new millennium. And it's like, back, I would say like 40 years plus.
Right.
You have communicable diseases all around, and pandemic is not new. And ever since then, but coming up into the 80s, you had the eradication of those communicable diseases. And then, you had those chronic non-communicable diseases. And of course, those diseases would be like the diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and so forth.
Yes.
And now in this time period, you have a clash of the two, because we are coming back with those communicable diseases, which is actually clashing with those chronic diseases. And in the middle is where, a lot of persons are being caught with the immune system being compromised. And, right now is the time where we really have to pay focus on our health. If never a time right now, because I know over the years, working, in the hospital setting, persons are being referred. And sometimes, I would get persons to really pay heed to the instructions given. And sometimes some persons, they will keep delaying and putting off and say, oh, I will meet them and say, okay, well, I was given a referral by the doctor to come and see you, but I really don't have the time.
Yes.
But right now, you really have to make that time, because it is a lifesaver.
Absolutely, and I'm sure this is the inspiration behind your business as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
We've always been hearing health is wealth, but I think it became even more real, like you mentioned, when especially coronavirus, while pandemics are not new, certainly the strain of the virus is new, and based on what we've been seeing and how it's really taking a toll on the world, building that natural immunity is key. Now, you have managed to put together a very dynamic team of persons who are able to provide these services. Speak to us about your team before we get into the actual services.
Okay, when I actually was, I thought about this whole private practice, even from when I was actually at work, because I knew I was actually coming close to retirement.
Yes.
And that was really my aim. And Mistress Shireen Williams, she has been working and still working at the Dr. D. Orlando Smith Hospital as the dietetic technician registered. And what that position is that they work hand in hand with the dietitian, because her role is a very critical role, because while she has the background of being an executive chef, and as well as having the clinical background in nutrition, she is the person who is going to actually be able to help individuals in terms of knowing what type of foods that you are to prepare, and to help to curb and to get that immune system back in place. So she has a very, very critical role to play. And I really appreciate her being on board with me and working with me. And Josette Allen, she's my actually former classmate.
Okay.
And I know her, and I know the work she does. And she's a farmer, she's an entrepreneur. And currently right now, she is so industrious, because she has been making castor oil, the coconut oil and so forth. And she's a farmer, and she uses more of the natural organic pesticides. She's very particular when it comes to growing the foods and making sure that there's no pesticides that would cause, again, for further complications with your health.
So this seems to be really holistic. This is what I'm hearing based on what you're saying. I'm hearing diet. I'm hearing the actual food that you're putting into your system. But as we look at the extended services of this business, let's get into that a bit more if you can.
Okay. Oh.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So I started out since 2018.
Okay.
And So we are now in the process of doing personalized nutrition consultation. And what the procedure is, because I actually am a provider with the National Health Insurance, the doctors, I sort of linked up with the doctors, and they would send a referral. And the requisite is that once I get the referral, I would need to get lab data or current lab data, and that would go to NHI, and there is where I would actually set up the consultation, like a one-on-one. And what I do is like I go in terms of the holistic approach. I go very deep into not just covering in terms of what they have eaten over a period of time, but it also stems from as early, as they can recall, any health conditions or any sicknesses or illnesses, and leading right up. And also talking about in terms of the stress levels as well, and because that actually plays a key role. You see, when it comes to our body, okay, our body is it has to work in tandem. We have these various organ systems, and you would know that everything is out of sync is when one organ system is actually not functioning at optimal levels. And hence the reason why we would do an assessment, a thorough assessment, and the tool that we would need is those very same lab data. So for instance, like if someone actually comes with what is called a hemoglobin A1c,
Okay.
that actually tests in terms of a person who may become diabetic. But we can catch that person very early before they are being diagnosed. So when they come with a result, let's say the normal range would be 4 to 6%, okay? And if the individual hemoglobin A1c comes anywhere between like 5.9 to 6.5, then that actually puts that person in a pre-diabetic position.
Wow.
So this is where now we can reverse that
Through your services.
through food
Wow.
and food intervention and supplementation if needed, which is the natural supplementation.
That is awesome. What I'm hearing is that you guys not only provide these services, but what I'm also getting is you provide the information, the knowledge that is necessary for persons to go home and continue that wellness. Because yes, we have a tendency to come to the doctor, the doctor's office, the professional's office, take the advice, but don't necessarily have the discipline to continue at home. And I think that poses a challenge, but you're equipping them with that information as well.
Yes, and once I do the assessment, then I would go over with them and say, okay, this is the reason why, you having these symptoms. Because yes, of course, I'd also to ask them in terms of what symptoms are, if they have any allergies to any food or medication, or if they having any headaches or experiencing any headaches, or maybe upset stomach or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
And I would actually tell them, okay, well, actually you probably, having a leaky gut syndrome. And what happened is that this is where we would find out, where our immune system is being compromised.
Okay.
Because you see, what happened is that we are made up of trillions of cells.
Yes.
And if we are not feeding those cells with the right food, this is what the outcome will be. Those are the manifestation of what symptoms that you may be feeling. Because you see, our cells are made up of the very same carbohydrates, protein, fats, the DNA, RNA, and water. So if we actually continuously using a lot of the processed foods, and when it gets into our stomach, and of course our pH balance, it's really acidic. It's supposed to be acidic, okay? So, and inadvertently, not everything that you put in your mouth is the food and what is safe coming into your mouth. and even the things that we breathe in. And you see, our body has a mechanism, which is the organ system, which is the lymphatic system that works in terms of detoxing. And then of course, we have our liver as well too, which helps to detoxify those very same toxins. But if we continue using like processed foods day in, day out, the fried foods, eating very late and what have you, it's like the cells are not, they're weakening. Okay, remember now, it is your DNA that we really have to work towards. Okay, so in terms of revitalizing, so it comes mainly from those whole foods that we have to replace.
Beautiful. Now we're starting to run out of the time, but I just want to get into the micronutrient testing. That seemed to be very interesting. Speak to our viewers about what that entails and, of course, how that will tie into their annual checkups.
Okay, so the micronutrient testing, that is a test that is being done. You would test like 31 different micronutrients because we need the micronutrients, and sometimes when we take in those very same processed foods, they tend to actually destroy like the vitamin A, the vitamin D, the zinc, the mineral, which is magnesium, and the calcium, and so forth. Those are what is needed to help to propel those very same nutrients when they're broken down into the most absorbable form to the liver, and from the liver is going to sift out in terms of the good and what needs to get into the bloodstream to get directly to the cells. Okay. So when that happens inside the cell, it is what is called intracellular. So when we do the blood test, yes, of course we can get those testing done, but the blood tests that would not really tell you in terms of the deficiency. So the micronutrient testing tests within the cellular if there's any deficiency. So now, and then once that comes back, once the results come back, if you have a deficiency, they will tell me, well, what type of deficiency you have and what supplementation that you would need. And that would help to now boost, and then where you go and retest again in 6 months for a period of time.
That's almost like looking at the cell through a microscopic level. That is incredible. Now, I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but just for reiteration, I have to ask, because I know this is something our viewers is probably interested in knowing. Is this covered by NHI?
Yes, it is. Yes,
excellent,
it is.
Excellent. And as you begin to close out, what do you want? What are BVI to know, especially in these times that we're living in, Mrs. Barry, where our immune system, like you said, are compromised, chronic diseases meets communicable diseases. Let's talk about the importance of having a strong immune system, and of course, how our viewers can get into contact with you to take advantage of your services.
Okay, in terms of maintaining a strong immune system, it starts with first knowing and assessing where you are. It all depends on how you're feeling right now. If you're feeling kind of fatigued, tired, or whatever the case may be, I would suggest you go now to really pay a visit with your physician, and hopefully that they would do some lab works. And once those lab works are done, actually just say to the individual, well, I want to have a visit with the nutritionist, which is myself or Mrs. Williams.
Okay.
And from there, that's where I think it would be a start in terms of actually making sure that you're on the road and paying heed to actually to revitalize your immune system. The number you can reach us at is 443-5028. That's my number. And Mrs. Williams' number is 341-6723.
All right, Mrs. Barry, quite a mouthful. And I think at the forefront of our conversations. Yes, we've been hearing about the vaccines as a mechanism to protect, but one thing we've been hearing reiterated is the importance of having natural immunity against the virus. We've also heard doctors say, even if you get infected with the virus now and you take the supplements now, it doesn't necessarily start to kick in right away. That's why it's so essential that we are in the practice of always boosting our immune system. And of course, those are the services being provided here with this company. So I think that's awesome. I want to thank you so much for taking time.
Just before
Go ahead.
closing off, I just also want to say with the micronutrient testing,
Yes.
it also tests your immune system to see where your immune system is at.
Oh, that means I'll be coming to see you soon then. And I'm sure so many others. Once again, I want to thank you for your time. And of course, continue to keep us updated on this very important topic as we pivot our way forward.
And thank you for the opportunity, and I certainly will.
Absolutely, viewers. That was Mrs. Philippa Barry. She is the founder of Holistic and Therapeutic Haven, of course, speaking to all things natural immunity and, of course, making sure that our bodies, our minds are healthy going forward. My name is Javon Wilson, but that is not all the content for today. Do join us at 2 p.m. for an exclusive interview, with the Minister of Education as school reopens on September 6th. We know you have many questions, and we're here to get them answered. Bye-bye.
Okay.